Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Holy Trinity Church. My name is Gordon Blue, and I thank you for joining your prayers with ours. This is a good morning for a sea story. 450 miles west of Dutch Harbor and 3 miles offshore of an Aleutian island, one calm evening long ago, we drifted east on a strong current. It was near the peak tide for the month of June, and one of the very rare times stars were visible. Snow-capped volcanic islands stood out in the light of a full moon. It was very quiet. There wasn't another boat within 100 miles, and there was scarcely any swell. Suddenly, the surface of the sea was alive with fish, silvery arcs flashing, splashing in the still air. Large fish, visible in every direction, hundreds of jumps glittering off in the dark, all strongly swimming with the current. The dance went on for hours. The vivid beauty of that night, so saturated with life, forms one of the peak memories of my years fishing. It was a one-time show. The fish did what we always tried to do when we needed to go to town. Moving out of the North Pacific, they caught a big tide and were away. In a bit less than a week, false pass test fishing began to pick up, and inside another week, the big runs were on in Bristol Bay. There's an adage out in the Aleutian chain. If you can clearly see the big volcanic cones, the next day the wind will try to blow your ears off. It happened that time too. By the following afternoon, we were battered by a full storm. A different sort of beauty came down upon us. I love the gospel story we read today. It connects for me. The weather, the progression of events, the situations speak through my experience to the authenticity of the text. Weather systems, ocean currents, the fish, everything is driven by thermal differentials and tidal forces, and the fishermen are too. In the Jesus story, earlier on that day, the people crowded to the edge of the lake. Jesus taught them from a boat. As the day ended, he asked the disciples to cross over the lake. Obviously exhausted, he went to the stern and fell deeply asleep. And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with them in the boat just as he was. Other boats were with him. A great windstorm then arose, and the waves beat into the boat so that the boat was already being swamped. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" At the end of a hot day, high winds often funnel into the river valley as cooling air displaces the heat of the day. Although the conditions may have been unusually severe, the phenomenon would not have been an unfamiliar one for the fishermen disciples. They would not have been happy when the vessel filled with battering seas, but they would have known what to do. Trim sail if they had one, shape a course for the best destination downwind, and call everyone to bail. Jesus was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" Clearly, they were operating as experience taught. "Get up, Jesus. Wake up and help." It is not rare for a person called to work out of an exhausted sleep to speak sharply to everyone around and even to the weather. Jesus woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." Then the wind ceased and there was a dead calm. It is also the case that the wind may settle quickly once it's done. This is certainly not something you can count on, but it is certainly welcome when it does happen. However, the timing and the degree of the thing was surely unexpected, and the way he turned to them, and he said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with awe and said to one another, "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" Sometimes when I hear this story, I wonder, whose boat was it? Who gave the orders that night? Was it Peter or Andrew? Was it James, maybe, or John, or the old man? And then I imagine the look on his face. Sometimes the picture of his jaw-drop, open mouth is so clear, and the irascible, just-woken Jesus with his hair sticking out. Sometimes I just have to laugh. In the early days, the oral history days before the gospel was written, was this ever a sea tale told in the wine bars of Magdala? Did it get a laugh from those fishermen? And what did it matter? What would Jesus do if he heard it that way? After all, this chapter 4 in Mark, is about the use of parables to instruct people and bring them spiritual understanding. And there is a parabolic feel to this story too, isn't there? What do you suppose? Have you never been totally wrapped up in your self-directed concerns, caught in a jam, all hands on deck, waking up Jesus to come and bail you out? And then he does. Comes along all red-eyed, opens his hand, and the beauty of all creation sees brimming with life, the interconnection of all beings cascading from his palm, and my jaw drops at the wonder of how short is my understanding.